Hello, my fellow Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters who are scattered to the four corners of the earth. As you can see from the title, in Asheville, North Carolina, the Asheville City Council passed reparations for their black residents. Woohoo! Last Tuesday on July 14th with an unanimous vote of 7-0. The resolution's primary proponent was Asheville City Councilman Keith Young, who is one of the two black members currently serving on the council. He says, "It is simply not enough to remove statues. Black people in this country are dealing with issues that are systemic in nature. Hundreds of years of black blood spilled that basically fills the cup we drink from today." So true. The resolution declared that due to racist practices and discrimination, black residents have been denied opportunities in essentially all areas of life and limited to the confined routes of travel provided by public transportation, according to the council. The resolution reads, "Black people have been unjustly targeted by law enforcement and criminal justice procedures, incarcerated at disproportionate rates, and subsequently excluded from full participation in the benefits of citizenship." Now, Councilwoman Shanika Smith, who is also black, as you see her in the photo, said people have emailed the city council asking why today's citizens should be responsible for actions others committed during slavery. And I'm going to tell you why exactly. Let me pull up this because a lot of people think like this. Here are a bunch of comments by the foggy-minded, and they're all saying things like, "I want reparations for my taxes. Let the city council pay. They were the ones oppressing black people. Where are they going to get the money from? Are they just going to steal the appropriate amount from each white person's bank account? I want reparations for the $7 billion that gets paid to Walmart and all the stolen bicycles." Oh yes, because bike locks matter. "We want reparations from the damage done by the protesters and Black Lives Matter activists. You should think of the Native Americans first. Slavery came after. What about the Japanese? What do they get?" Okay, first off, they sound very uneducated because if they have some scholarship in them, they know that $1.5 billion was paid to the Japanese Americans, and the Native Americans got billions of dollars in land back then, and they are still getting paid millions of dollars currently each year, despite the fact that they are paying the wrong Native Americans, and the ones that they choose to recognize as natives was indeed enslaving black folks and hunting black natives and the American Negroes down. And many bought the name Native for $5, but let's continue. Now here's the good stuff. This guy is allegedly black, and he says, "I find the whole idea of reparations highly offensive. I was never a slave, and I have never suffered anything because of slavery. And I don't deserve money from people who were never slave owners themselves. This is BS." I don't know. Sounds awfully suspect. Is he a poser? Is he an agent? Is he the 2/3 that are going to get cut off? Is he even a descendant of Jacob? Because not all black people in America are descendants of Jacob. A few responses underneath this comment reads, "I am Caucasian. My family came here in the early 1900s from Italy. I'm sure they were slaves, so poor. I just don't get it. Truth be told, we were all broke on arrival to America, and then only the elites owned plantations. I'm so tired of hearing about racial inequality and slavery and everything. My family on both sides immigrated from overseas in the late 1800s and early 1900s, so we never owned slaves. In fact, most people's races suffered slavery since the dawn of time. There is no slave trade in America and hasn't been for some time. Live and let live. Back to the top. Imagine thinking some random person owes you money for something their long lost ancestors did. That sounds like mental illness to me. But if politicians can benefit by pushing and fostering that victim mentality onto people, they sure as hell will. North Carolina is going to have to file bankruptcy after this. I'm Irish and I want my reparations for my ancestors that had to fight and die as soon as they got off the boats from Ireland. Will be in every state soon. To me, taking ownership of what has and had been done is a way to resolve. If you keep on ignoring the problem, that's a way to divide. I want reparations for the 4 years I spent in the Navy. I was enslaved and forced to go to Vietnam. You see how they love to downplay slavery and say things like that, and also things like, we are all subordinate to the progress of the rich elite. We are all slaves. When you were in Vietnam, they weren't lynching you or feeding your babies to alligators. That's a fact. No one has been oppressed like the black man's been oppressed. No one has been robbed like the black man has been robbed in this country. But check it here. My great-great-grandfather was imported from Ireland to build the railroads in the 19th century, and he was broke when they got through with his labor. You ask me what I think about this? I can't do that because Google would shut me down for wrong think. Just know that I think it's insane. They can reimburse the welfare, food stamps, and Medicaid programs. I've been so oppressed working all these years to take care of them. I demand repayment. It would be absolutely hilarious if everyone, okay, they probably meant if everyone left the state to the blacks, so they would end up paying reparations to themselves, which sounds like truly is just going into the government's officials' pockets. I need reparations from the government for making me be a slave to the fiat bankrupt American dollar. And I don't see how there is a comparison with the KKK to the Black Lives Matter movement. See how we are getting mocked? At one point in time, I wanted to move to Asheville, but it looks like the people running it are stupid. Reparations have been paid for decades via welfare. Where's the reparations for the Civil War soldiers who died to free them? Translation: we are stealing from the white and giving it to the black. Guilty if white. Is anyone going to fight this, or are we going to let these sick Democrats rob us blind? Your reparations were paid, the blood of the soldiers who died to free you. As you see, people are not having it. They want to compare slavery to false equivalencies and mock us when there is and was no greater atrocity than what the white man has done to the black man. The few cities to pass reparations are Chicago and Evanston, Illinois. State governments considering them include Maryland, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. In some of the biggest news for reparations, California's State House passed legislation in June last month, with the Senate now set to take up the bill on reparations. But in Asheville, the vote came after the Buncombe County Health Board declared racism a public health crisis, and thousands of protesters packed the streets, calling for the Asheville Police Department to be defunded. The disproportionate amount of death related to COVID has exposed the structural inequity and lack of wealth in Black communities, Perry said. Paired with the death of George Floyd, it made it clear that if we are really going to overcome many of these structural barriers, we are going to need some form of reparations. Now, some people may cheer, but the reparations are not coming in the form of direct deposit. Now, as you see, some people may fear that it is going to bankrupt the country, but yet these same people, and no one was complaining when $1,200 checks were being handed out. As you can tell, all the government really has to do is just go and print a bunch of money, not backed by any gold. So how is it going to bankrupt the country when they do that all the time anyway? Instead of giving Black residents taxpayer-funded payments, the city will instead funnel money into various programs targeting Black communities, and they have 1 year to establish these measures. Now, the problem is that there is a lot of corruption within these social agencies. Whenever money goes through an agency, it may not even go to the resources, supplies, and such that the program stated people needed. So even if one was to agree with the idea of reparations, this will not be a means of getting real help to anyone who needs it, especially without strings attached. These programs and services setup comes with policies, rules, and hoops to jump through to get them. So not everyone would even get them. Only the more compliant would. Over time, those going through systems like these would be slowly conditioned through them. Now, these conditions will be social engineering through policies, rules, regulations, and what is presented to them that they must do or comply with. So even though some may benefit from this in some ways, there is a massive amount of conditioning involved. And another thing, the money going into these programs could be mismanaged, as it often happens, which means the programs wouldn't even be getting as much quality as they could. So, as much as some who wanted this will think it will help, and it may well help some, there is much more to all this that will affect the people going through these programs in ways they don't realize. Just as with others who have gone through social programs, there is a lot within and behind these programs people don't realize, which gives little, but in the long run benefit the elite powers that be, who are money hungry in insidious ways. It is social engineering, and these programs are going to be tailored for them over time. They are going to be the ones to get filthy rich off the newly awarded government contracts to build the new houses and housing. The other one will then own the private company that oversees the payments, and it follows like that. This was just a way the people in the council and the elite could get the kickbacks and do this all while supposedly helping Blacks. Whereas if it were not so, they'd give us that 40 acres and a mule that was promised to freed slaves. William Doherty, a public policy professor and director of the Samuel D. Ball's Cook Center on Social Equity at Duke University, thinks that the national government should handle reparations with an encompassing program, stating, "I have strong reservations about local efforts at atonement being labeled as reparations." And in the book that he co-authored with Kirsten Mullen, which was entitled From Here to Equality, he calls for substantial payments to each documented U.S. Black descendant of slavery. The final resolution included an apology from the city for participating in and sanctioning of the enslavement of black people, and called upon other organizations and institutions in Asheville that have advanced and benefited from racial inequity to join the city in its apologies and to address racism within their own structures and programs. So pretty much they are saying, oops, yeah, I enslaved you, raped, robbed, murdered, mutilated you, and made over $4 trillion off of you, and now I don't want to pay you back. But sorry. And yet we are still being held down by the same system we initially built up. And yet they want to pay the Japanese, they want to pay the natives, and they even pay the Jews for the Holocaust, even though they had nothing to do with it. So now when the black man asks for reparations, there's a problem. They want to put slavery behind them and make everyone forget and have us all live in perfect harmony, but y'all didn't forget. He comes and visits the sins of your forefathers from the third and fourth generation. So just as we had to pay for the sins of our forefathers, the other nations are also going to have to pay for the sins of their forefathers. Y'all knows that they still did not pay for what they have done to his chosen people. They want to make up their own punishment, and it is unjust. It is not equal to the blood that was spilled. So America will receive double for what she has done, whether she likes it or not. Thus saith the Most High. I want to give all praises to Yahweh and Yahweh Shai for Yah's people awakening. And I will see you guys. Well, I will talk to you guys in my next video. Shalom.